All right, I believe we are live. Tonight we are joined by Alaisa online.
Hey.
We're going to be going through her story. I got some questions we're going to hit. And then we're also going to be taking Q&A as well. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop that. Lisa, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing, Logan?
I'm doing really good. I'm getting ready for big move out to Delaware to launch up the new warehouse. So I'm not working too much this week, but getting ready for that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Weren't you looking for an apartment last I heard? Something like that?
Yeah, yeah. Decided to go with Airbnb
Hmm.
for now. What's up, Cisco?
Hey. It's an Air Aria shirt.
Oh, is
it's
that
a must have.
GOT?
Oh yeah.
Awesome. I watched the first few seasons. I'm planning on restarting it this summer.
Yeah, forget all about anything here, but
No spoilers.
yeah, no spoilers, but I mean, it has been a few years now, so you
Yeah,
probably heard quite a
yeah.
bit. Honestly, yeah, if you just end it, I mean, some people will say to end it like a season or two early. I was cool with the first few episodes of the last season, and then I would have cut it off there and just like let my imagination fill in the rest. But
Yeah.
we'll see how
All
the
right.
books pan out.
All right. If we want to go ahead and get started, just kind of give us your background and how you got started selling on Amazon.
Yeah. So I used to be a corporate trainer at Nationwide. That was like the last like full-time legit job that I had. Um, and I was doing that. It was cool. I'm just insurance is just, it's just not very exciting. So eventually I had my daughter. We started crunching some numbers to figure out like, is it worth it for me to stay at work or should I stay at home? I don't know if you know this, but childcare is like more than my mortgage. So it gets a little bit crazy from that standpoint. So basically I figured out that if I would have stayed at work, I'd be making less than minimum wage, like once you factor out childcare and a bunch of other things. So I quit my job. I started doing some side things. I got my like insurance license so I could work from home for other insurance agencies. But once again, that's just not what I wanted to do. Um, but I also like I'm not like the stay-at-home mom type. Like I love my kids and I love being a mom, but that comes with like its own like vibe and it's just not really my vibe, I guess. So anyway, I've just been looking for other things to do and kind of keep busy with. And one of my good friends started selling on Amazon in March of last year. She's really been like hyping up her reseller Instagram this whole time. So I was like following her journey all the way up until I started mine. And yeah, I mean, I really wanted to, and I kept telling myself that I would kind of get around to it. And finally, I was like, okay. She had posted that she did like 340 something $1,000 in sales between March of last year and March of this year. Um, I do think she kind of lucked out. I know that she rode like the chlorine and the pool wave
Yeah.
over the summer, so I know she got into that. She said her Q4 was amazing, and so yeah, once she was doing that, I was like, man, like this is a very good friend of mine. Like we've been to each other's weddings and stuff. And so if I have this resource of someone that I can kind of like get some feedback on, for some feedback from, I might as well just give it a shot and see what happens. I mean, worst case scenario, it'll be a fun story later. That's kind of how I
Yeah.
look at a lot of things. So I'm like, hey, it's going to work out really well or it's not. And I'm going to tell everybody in like 5 years, remember when I was like really into selling on Amazon. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of what brought me here.
Awesome. So you started with books, right?
I mean, kind of. So technically, and my path is, I think, a little bit different from other people's in that sense. So my friend actually did books for like 3 weeks, and then she immediately pivoted to RA, and then from there she went to OA. Um, and so whenever I kind of got in, that's really what she was kind of pushing. She was like, "Hey, this is what I do. This is what you should be looking into." And retail arbitrage seemed like also an easy segue into the market for beginners. Um, just because you're in the physical store with the physical product. And so I just think the concept works a little bit better. But Like maybe a weekend, not even, I started hearing that books were really good for beginners, and I'm like a book person in general. So I immediately was like, "Oh, like I really like this idea of like kind of book hunting." And I just like it as like a hobby, you know? I mean, I just think it's cool. So that's when I kind of pivoted and started focusing more on books as far as like my time that I spend sourcing. But I will say, even at this point, a majority of my sales have still come from retail arbitrage.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. So, what are your primary sourcing strategies for finding those products?
Yeah, so right now it's really funny. I mean, I know what the other strategies are, you know, like I've paid for, training content and things like that. So I'm aware of, different ways that people do online arbitrage, but for the most part, I have looked at I am in some like leads lists. Um my friend Noelle, who got me started on this, she has a private Discord where she drops leads, but my main way has been, honestly going through like the ads of some of our regional stores when they have sales, especially like I work at Publix part time. I work 5 hours a week. That's where I was last night when I tuned in to your stream. But don't tell them that. I guess I shouldn't say that here. But, um, I had to check it out. So anyway, I started out really like going through my Publix ads, which is a regional grocery store down here, and I know the sales pretty well. I've been working there since I was in college, part time, and so I know the sales that kind of cycle through and how often they cycle
Yeah.
through. So I started picking out the sales in what I've now learned should be really dubbed like a sale plan instead of a
Yep.
replen. So I really have like a couple sale plans that I've kind of been able to capitalize on just based on that. It really helps that I have a lot of friends that are in management now, so I'm pretty comfortable going to the store, having them order more if I need. Um, Swapping out. It was actually one of those products that I ended up. I think I had asked a question in your Discord actually about um what would it be called, like a return order, how to get what's it called when
Removal
Amazon
order.
sends you their stuff back.
Removal order.
A removal order, yes. So I actually went in and I kind of went a little bit too hard on one of the sale plans that I got into before I really understood variations in seller amp. And once I learned, and once no sales happened on several of those, I was like, okay, you know what? If I can get these back for like, I think it was like $1.10 a unit, um, I know I can go to Publix and they'll let me swap them out for the right flavor. So that's what literally I was doing that earlier today. So I'm about to send in the right one, and I've almost gotten back all the wrong ones. And in the end, the profit's a little bit lower, obviously, from all of the shipping back and forth, but I'm still getting a profit and I'm not losing out on that original inventory, which
Yep.
under other circumstances, I would have just had to like liquidate and move on.
Yep. Yeah. So you talked about looking at like the sales going on in your local stores. Do you follow Nate Jackson, Hustle Buddies?
I think so. I think so. It does sound, Hustle Buddies does sound familiar.
Yeah, they run a Facebook group. They've got probably 60,000 members, so it's a pretty sizable group. But he taught a class a little over a year ago called the Replan Workshop, and like a whole category of replens he deemed called sale plans, where you look at that exact process that you just described, where you're looking at these sales that are happening like every 2-3 months, whatever, and you can replenish those items every single time they go on sale.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's exactly what I kind of dug into. And I mean, and the thing is, like, obviously, it's still a lot of work. Like, just, I mean, for the same reason that a lot of people pivot to online arbitrage, pretty quickly if they can or if they're comfortable with it. It is still a lot of work. There's 14 Publixes in my vicinity, which is kind of a lot compared to other places, but Florida is pretty saturated with them. And hopping from store to store, sometimes you're just like, man, I can pick up the equivalent of like, especially because the product that I'm doing, it's a multi-pack. So I'm like, okay, like I can get 4 or 6 units from this store, and then I'm on to the next store. So it is kind of a grind, but Otherwise, like, what else would I have been doing earlier today? Like, it's just nice to like to like have something to keep up with and to get out there and do. So it's
Yeah, for
cool.
sure. You also mentioned that you use Seller Amp to read variations and see which one is going to sell. Could you talk to us a little bit about how you're using that tool to do that?
Oh yeah. So Seller Amp is honestly, I mean, obviously that coupled with Keepa, those are the main softwares that I use, other than Scout IQ, obviously for books, but I kind of consider that its own genre there. But yeah, basically, I can go into Seller Amp. I can scan a product or type in an ASIN or UPC, whatever. It'll pull up the listing and give me a lot of data on that listing. And one of the data points that it'll provide is variations. And from there, you can go in and you can. I believe I hop right over to Keepa from there. I'm pretty sure that's the process. But I kind of dig into Keepa from there, and I go and I look at the data in Keepa, and I go and I check out the reviews. And
Yep.
so I look at and see, what percentage of the reviews are going to this listing versus the next one versus the next one. You can actually sort by percentage. So it'll just give me from, basically most reviews to least. And yeah, on this particular listing, one of the flavors that I had grabbed was taking like 75% of the reviews, and there were like 12, 15 variations on there. So it was a substantial amount. And then the other flavors or variations that I had gotten were getting like 1%, if that. Some of them were literally getting nothing. So had I known that before, would have not have even touched it. And without talking too much about the product, I would say if you are like, especially in grocery items, if you're trying to sell things on Amazon, I would, from a grocery perspective, I would keep in mind that like there are certain flavors of certain products that are available in like all products. Like if you're looking at chocolate bars, milk chocolate is going to be a flavor. It's not that exciting. Like that's not going to make that brand special necessarily. But if they have like some kind of like weird like blueberry chocolate or like just something a little bit different, people online, they might not be able to get
Yep.
blueberry chocolate or whatever in their local store. So they might be buying that from Amazon to get. So that was kind of a lesson learned there too. Like your standard flavors of certain products, just, unless it's like Starbucks or it's something that people want that, nobody's going to go out of their way, especially at a marked up price, to buy that product.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can find like whatever that brand's like niche is to, really push out what differentiates them from other of the other brands, that's probably the flavor that's doing pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. And just to add on to that, like use your regional location to your advantage. So, like Southeast, you got Publix. Somewhere else, you got Trader Joe's, and I'm sure like every region has its own specific store that
Hmm.
carries its own specific brands. And someone on the other side of the country is going to be willing to pay a premium for that because the store is not in their area. So, if you have like a regional specific grocery chain, look for their specific brands and then find listings for those products.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely like, yeah, that's one of the takeaways that I've definitely brought home in the last few weeks. Just figuring everything out, but it's all about access, I mean, obviously you're going to have a certain number of people that they're just going to hop on their computer and they will buy things that they can just go get at Walmart because they want the convenience.
Yep.
But if you really want that differentiating factor, you have to remember, yeah, how many people have moved away from Florida and they don't have Publix anymore, and now they can't find this exact product, so,
Yep.
or it's gotten discontinued in their area, or whatever's happening. But regional is a good place to start. At least that was my thought
Definitely.
process.
What are some of your goals for your business this year?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so in one of my like part-time jobs, and I know this is a really, especially when it comes to Amazon, this is a super like arbitrary like goal. And it would have to scale pretty high to like even get to this point because I don't want to pull a lot of profits out to pay myself. But one of my side jobs, I was making $1,000 a month, right? And that was like my take home pay essentially. And so, yeah, I would like to get to a level where, I mean, even if I could just be bringing in like maybe $500 a month without like, just shaving all my profits off each month, because I obviously want to scale. And the only way to do that is going to be to just plug them right back into the
Yep.
business. So, but yeah, I mean, right now, last month it was to hit $1,000 in a month, and then it happened. So I was very pleased with that. So now it's just, hey, can I hit 2K in a month? Can I hit 5K in a month? I mean, that's kind of the process that I'm going for right now.
Yeah, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Um, Going further on that a little bit, what is kind of your why behind this business? Like, what do you really want reselling to accomplish for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and I think you get this a lot. It's at the end of the day, it's really, and I think the older that you get, the more that this becomes like a dramatic takeaway. But it's really the freedom and the control.
Yep.
Okay, one of the things they teach you with like toddlers is the reason that they're such like jerks sometimes is that they just want control. Like they have no, I mean, everything is done for them. They want control over something. They want to decide what to watch on TV or what to eat, right? And that's the crazy thing about having a job. Like one of the main things you give up, especially depending on what your job is the control over how you spend your time, what you do during the day. But I mean, we all have bills to pay. We all have to make sacrifices somewhere. But I would rather kind of work, even if it meant working harder than I would at a 9 to 5. I would rather do that and then still have the freedom and control over my day and over my time. So
Yeah.
that's, I mean, that's the biggest one. I mean, I also just really enjoy it. Like, it is like I have like, 1,000% like certifiable ADHD times 10. And it is definitely a very, I mean, if you can stay somewhat organized, it's a very ADHD friendly route to take too, because it's just, I mean, there's just always something to learn and something happening. And then there's the next thing you can buy and the next thing you can source and the next thing you can, and so the fact that it's always changing and it's always just, there's always the next thing to go for is very, very satisfying for me. So it's both sides. It's obviously the necessity of needing to work and choosing something that can provide some freedom and control, but also like it's pretty fun. I mean, a lot of it's pretty fun. So
Yeah. Awesome. Cisco asks, are you using any lines of credit or do you have seed money starting?
yeah, so I actually did. I got started probably. I mean, you know, we have money and savings to use for things like this if it came up. Um, so the fact that so essentially yes, like I would say that I kind of had seed money, but I mean, just because I have a family, my husband works really hard. I've got 2 kids that we have to feed. I still feel like I owe I owe it back, Like, I mean, I hope it doesn't just disappear, Like, I hope, and I will say, even right now, and throughout my first month, like, I got $1,000 in sales, but I spent a little over $2,000 on inventory, and so, but then a few hundred of that was tied up in a flavor that wasn't selling, and then I would say half of that is tied up in books right now. I mean, some of it is in these textbooks that are sitting on the floor. They're not all textbooks. That would be like a gold mine. But this is obviously like a money pile right now. So and that's the tricky part I think about getting started is that you can see somebody had, $10,000 in sales, but I mean, did they spend $20,000 on inventory? Like that makes a big difference depending on how much money you have to start. So yeah, I hit $1,000, but I also, I spent more than that. That's for sure. But it also meant that going into this next month, hoping tomorrow if I can make $40 in sales tomorrow, then I've already hit another 1,000. Like that, I'm at 2,000, and so took 28 days the first time, but because I kind of built up my inventory immediately, that second $1,000 is coming in the next like 14 days. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I haven't really used credit per se. I am using a credit card just for the rewards, but I am paying it off in full with money that we already had saved up.
Do you think that as you continue to grow and scale the business, you'll start utilizing credit more?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I don't think it's possible to scale quickly without doing that. So, I mean, unless I guess the exception is if you are buying super profitable items that are going super fast, which is obviously the goal. But as a beginner, it's still tricky to find those and to have the confidence to kind of pull the trigger and to go. Cause like I am spread really wide right now. Like I probably have like 14 or 15 different ASINs that I'm, trying to work with right now just to kind of feel it out. But it's really hard to decide like, okay, now we're gonna actually go deep. We're gonna figure this out. So and I think in order to do that, you have to use credit. So
Yep,
I am looking at some credit cards. I've been asking around what people like. I know a lot of people really like the Plum card for the 60-day.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Best card, hands down.
Yeah, yeah. So that's definitely on my radar. And I have really good credit because of all of the stuff. We've got a mortgage, I've got student loans. So, I mean, I've been building it up for a long time. So that's kind of an advantage that I do have versus when I was like 18, 19, 20, I wouldn't have had that. But yeah, that's the next step is to go ahead and start opening up some credit cards.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, you hit it. It's the key to growth in this business is getting your hands on as much money as possible. So once you learn how to read a keep a chart, how to find the products, once you make those mistakes of like not reading variations properly and things like that, and it's good to get those out early before you start utilizing credit. But once you have everything down, your job is to spend as much money as you possibly can on inventory and just do it over and over again. One of the best ways to do that is to utilize lines of credit. And you mentioned the Plum. I highly recommend the Plum to anyone looking to get a credit card. 60-day payment terms, and they are very aggressive about raising your limit. So they started me off with like 13,000, and then it either doubled or tripled after the first cycle. And then now I have like 100 grand available to me if I needed to spend it. So like the more you
Wow.
use and pay back, they'll really aggressively raise your limit.
Wow, that's awesome. I have actually, I saw FBA Poppy's comment. I have heard that the Capital One Spark is great too.
Yeah,
And I've looked at the Chase, a couple of the Chase Ink cards just because, I mean, we've got the 524 rule. And when it comes to, especially when it comes to earning points and things, Chase does have some good stuff going on. So, but yeah, that's all about like, it's a lot of organization, a lot of keeping track of things. And I can totally see how you really can't go wrong with the Plum as far as the 60 days goes, because it's that 30-day term that's really tricky when you're trying to flip and bring the money back in. Um, but yeah.
Cisco says it is not the best card. It's the best card to start off and scale to delay the payment until your cash flow catches up. Yeah, so if you're
I,
looking for
yeah.
rewards and stuff like that, it's definitely not good. The only kind of rewards you get are a 1.5% early pay discount. But if you, yeah, you're right. Like if you're not trying to be able to delay that and you have really good cash flow to where it turns over and you can just pay it off, maybe you don't need that. Maybe you don't need the safety net of 60-day terms. And then you should go with something where you're going to get rewards. And I really like the Amex Platinum for that. I'm Team Amex.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard, I mean, I know a lot of people are. So yeah, I mean, that's just once again, I mean, it's kind of one of the weird things about selling on Amazon is that you really do have you have all these different things that you can kind of get into and start researching. I love to research, and that's one of the weird things about selling on Amazon is that like you can definitely have paralysis by analysis where you just spend too much time trying to figure things out and you don't actually kind of get your feet wet. So I really went against like my instincts in getting started, but it was awesome. And credit cards is the next step. Like I'm gonna keep talking about this, but until I just go out there and I and I just go and get a credit card, I can talk all I want, but I'll have to actually test it out myself. And I do think for a beginner, the Plum does make the most sense because until I do have items, and I'll say for like for book flipping specifically, because a lot of your books, like some of them, yeah, if you're specifically focusing on those like 150 scores, or if you're really focused on how fast it's going to turn over, then that's awesome. But hopefully you also have access to a lot of places that have books like that, and they're not all kind of going to be like that. So I think book flipping is a little bit more of a waiting game, and I can see the Plum being helpful for that.
Yeah, it is. Cisco is team max out all my credit cards. Billy Flip says he wants to get the the Plum for Christmas. Definitely. FBA Poppy says 1% does not apply with the Plum unless you pay early. Yep, that's correct. It's a 1.5% early pay discount. So you cannot both get a discount and delay your payment for the whole 60 days. It's either or. All right. What advice do you have for someone just starting out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like 6 weeks in, 7 weeks in at this point, something like that. They just gotta do it. And which is like the opposite of the advice that I've ever given to anyone about anything. Like I'm always telling people like, you need to wait, you need to try to figure it out. Like I am not risky. Um, it's probably like a kickback from ADHD, like just making rapid fire bad decisions like my whole life. I'm like, oh wait, no, we shouldn't do that. We need to figure it out before we jump in. Um, but like, I mean, I don't know. Do you play like fantasy football or I don't
I
know, play
have
video
before.
games or anything?
Yeah.
To me, it's a lot like fantasy football because like someone can sit there and talk to me all day about how like oh how the draft works and how the points are given and like because and I listened to it like my husband talked about it for years before I actually started playing. um but it's just a whole nother ball game like once you're actually in it and you actually like y- when you're actually selling things on Amazon, like it's not just like, oh, maybe I'll learn some stuff about Amazon today. It's like, oh, I better figure this out because like literally this money that I have spent already is dependent on it. Um, I will say for me, two things that's really helped me out. And one would be to go ahead and invest in software and in the professional account. And I'm not even saying like if you plan on, obviously, I know like the 40 items, versus not because it's $1 per item if you don't have a professional account. But hey, I'm down, Cisco. Let's do it. Um, but I just think that it immediately gives you a stake in the game. Like as soon as I signed up for these softwares and as soon as I got that professional account, I was like, oh man, like I just wasted $100 this month if I don't actually do something.
Mm,
Um, you know, it forces you to get in there. And on that same note, I would say start a reseller's Instagram because I just feel personally, I have gotten into so many hobbies in my life and I don't tell anyone because I know that I'm going to come back to them in like 2 months and be like, hey, remember when I was like really obsessed with writing a novel? And I am never going to touch any of those notes again. Like, I'm so sorry I wasted your time talking about it. But I think that whenever you kind of go public with your hobbies or with your interests, it gives you a certain level of accountability. And so that is, I think that's important. I think that it, forces you to be like, I'm going to stick with it today because, I've already like talked to my friends. I've already made friends that do this, like I want to keep going. So, um, yeah, those are the two pieces that I think really help you just kind of dive in and keep going.
yeah, those are really good tips. I've never thought about like you said getting the software, and now it's like, okay, I have $100 a month in software. I gotta go make at least 100 a month. It really
Yeah.
kind of sets a fire under you. That's a
Oh,
good perspective.
facts. And I mean, I could say the same thing about like buying a Rolo because like I keep thinking like, oh, one day like if I have to ship something to my grandma, like I might use this. But oh. But why else would I have a Rolo printer? So just yeah, spending money on supplies, just kind of getting a stake in the game, you'll be more motivated to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Just make sure that you also have the money to act. Like if you only have $100, you can't spend that on software because then you
Yeah,
don't have any money left for inventory. So,
that's a
look at
fact.
your own personal situation, but that definitely is a powerful perspective to have.
Well, in that case, though, I would consider, if you have $100, I would say you need to spend like $44, or I don't remember what the non-database is. It's like $30 on Scout IQ. Use your phone, go flip some books, and spend $1.50 at Walmart for a box, and then send it away. And that's how you can get started. But I do think that either way, you're gonna have to spend money on something probably,
Yeah.
and hopefully if you just do that at the get go like if you decide, hey, this month I'm going to do it, like I did last in March, literally like tomorrow, go out and register for your software or whatever you're going to do because the clock is ticking. In 30 days, I owe Scout IQ $44 more. So let's do it.
Yep. We miss Cisco asked earlier our favorite musical artist. Do you have a favorite artist that you listen to?
I would say I mean I definitely have like a top five, but I would say on a regular basis, consistently, it's probably J. Cole.
That's me too, actually. Yeah, he was my
Hey.
top artist last year. I was in top 0.01 of his listeners on Spotify.
Oh, that is awesome.
Big
Yeah, I
fan of
mean,
J. Cole.
yeah, Kendrick, and obviously for me, it would be also like Lil Wayne, old school Kanye. It's harder for me to, I don't know. Some of his stuff is, hit or miss, but definitely back in the day was my favorite. But yeah, consistently every time, like no matter what, I will listen to his song. If it comes out, it's J. Cole.
Yeah, I'm I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but his song Amari that came out on the off-season album, I listened to it over 400 times last year.
No, that's awesome. I mean, some of
Yeah,
some of his songs, yeah. I mean, and those are the kinds of songs that he has, in my opinion. Like I could put several songs just on repeat. And last night my friend was talking about he was talking about Kendrick and his new album, and he doesn't really listen to much like hip hop or rap music. And he was like, "Man, like the guy is just so lyrical." And I was like, "Yeah, no doubt. I totally, totally agree." I was like, "But if you're into that, I was like, I need to introduce you to some other songs, because he really likes like some deep stuff. So
yeah.
I'm always kicking him some J. Cole recommendations.
Do you have some favorite resellers that you follow
Oh
besides
yeah, I
yourself?
mean everyone here right now in the chat, number one. But obviously the first people that I followed, and that wasn't facetious. Like I'm straight up. I think you guys should know that because I actually chat with you on the side in like the DMs. But anyway, the first people that I followed, I mean, obviously, I have to give a shout out to my friend Kona underscore reselling. Okay, that's her handle. Her name's Noelle. Um, she was like the person that got me into this, so obviously we're very close. But clearly, Flips for Miles and Fields of Profit, they were, it was their content that really got me into everything else. And it was definitely like Miles's content really pushing like, hey, you need a network. You should get out there and put yourself out there. That made me start the Instagram. So I would say, yeah, I mean, definitely all of them. I mean, there's a ton of people though. I do spend a lot of my time like asking people questions and answering questions and chatting with them. So um, pretty much if I follow a reseller, then I'm like, hey, this is great.
Awesome. Where can everybody find you out on socials?
Yeah, I am at Alaisa online, and you can see my name there with Cisco, and probably below my little. Oh yeah, there we go.
There we
Oh
go.
nope, there we go. Is that right? I don't know.
Yep, you got
Hopefully
it.
it's not flipped for everyone else. But yeah, so I'm at Alaisa online. Alaisa was taken, which it's not taken in some places. I was just too late to the game for Instagram, so Alaisa online is where it's at right now.
Okay, awesome. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here unless there's any more questions. Do you have any final words of advice or anything for everyone?
No, I mean, honestly, that's the only thing for me is just like even what I would like to see more of is I think that new resellers should just start documenting their journey online as soon as possible. I think it holds you accountable. I think it's honestly like the only way to network and to start like getting to know other resellers, which, you know, everyone has had work friends before, and I just feel like it would be really lonely to kind of do this without having those relationships. Um, but it's a really good song,
It
Cisco.
is. That's
Um,
crazy.
but yeah, so that would be my main thing is just, hey, if you're thinking about selling on Amazon, number one, just go like sign up right now. It's 24/7 online. Just go log on to Amazon and do it. And then number two, as soon as you make that first sale, go post about it on Instagram.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks everyone for watching. Tomorrow night, we're going to have Richie Hustles on, I
Hey,
think at 7:30 Central, something like that. I'll post it on my story tomorrow. So we'll see you all for that one as well. Thank you.
awesome. Yeah, thank you.